The alien queen trusted a human with her deadliest secret. Captain Elias Varn sat alone in the cockpit of the intrepid explorer, the hum of the ship's engines a comforting presence. Stars streaked past the viewport, each one a tiny promise of unknown adventures. Humanity had come far, colonizing distant systems in the Andromeda sector, and Elias had always felt a thrill in exploring the edge of the known galaxy. Today, however, there was a strange tension in the air, a quiet anticipation that he could not explain. The mission had started like any other. Elias and his crew were sent to survey a remote sector for potential resources and habitable planets. The signal they had picked up had seemed ordinary at first, a faint, pulsating energy signature deep within an asteroid belt. At first, the data suggested it might be a natural phenomenon, perhaps a rare type of mineral resonance. But as the intrepid explorer approached the coordinates, the signal intensified, as though it were aware of their presence. Elias studied the readings with a growing sense of curiosity. The energy pattern was unlike anything humanity had encountered before. It pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, but far too precise to be natural. He frowned, feeling a shiver run down his spine. Something or someone was broadcasting this signal deliberately. "Captain, the energy signature is spiking again," said Lieutenant Mara Kine, her voice calm but tinged with concern. She was the ship's communications officer, always careful and precise. "It's stronger than anything we've seen in this sector. I recommend maintaining a safe distance." Elias shook his head. "No, Mara, we need to investigate. This could be a major discovery. Prepare the landing shuttle. I'll go in myself." Mara hesitated but knew better than to argue. Elias had always had a knack for reading situations and finding opportunities others would miss. The risk was undeniable, but so was the potential for first contact. Elias suited up in the standard exploration gear and activated the shuttle. The journey through the asteroid field was treacherous, with jagged rocks shifting unpredictably in zero gravity. Yet, Elias maneuvered the craft with skill born of years of experience. The signal led him to a particular asteroid larger than most, with an unusual crystalline surface that shimmered faintly in the starlight. As he landed, the surface beneath him felt surprisingly solid, almost alive. The crystals seemed to hum softly, resonating with the energy he had detected. Elias stepped out of the shuttle, his boots clicking against the crystalline floor. The air was breathable, filtered by his suit's life support, yet it had a faint, sweet scent, unlike anything he had ever smelled. Then he saw her. Queen Zyra emerged from a tunnel carved into the crystal, her presence commanding yet graceful. She was taller than any human, her skin shimmering with a subtle iridescence, and her eyes held a depth that made Elias feel both awed and unnerved. The legends about the Zalnari had been many, stories of a species feared for their intelligence, their psychic abilities, and their merciless strategies. And yet, here she stood, observing him not as an enemy, but with a curiosity that mirrored his own. "Welcome, human," she said, her voice melodic yet firm, resonating in his mind as much as his ears. Elias felt her words echo within his thoughts, clear and precise. "I have watched your kind for some time. You are different from what I expected." Elias swallowed, trying to steady himself. "I am Captain Elias Varn of the United Earth Coalition. I come in peace. I mean no harm." Zyra inclined her head slightly, a gesture that was both acknowledgement and measurement. "I sense truth in your words." "Yet words alone cannot earn trust. You will need to prove your intentions through action." Elias took a cautious step forward. "I understand. What do you require of me?" She gestured to the crystalline tunnels behind her. "Come, human, walk with me. There is much to observe, and I wish to see your mind at work." As they walked, Elias marveled at the interior of the asteroid. The walls pulsed faintly with light, responding to Zyra's movements as though the entire structure were a living organism. Crystalline formations spiraled upward, refracting the ambient light into colors that shifted with every step. Elias could feel a strange resonance building in the air, a rhythm that seemed to sync with his own heartbeat. "You are brave to come here alone," Zyra said, breaking the silence. "Most of your kind would not have dared. They fear what they do not understand." Elias met her gaze. "Fear can protect, but curiosity drives progress. Humanity has survived because we are willing to take risks, to learn from the unknown rather than hide from it." She paused, considering his words. "Perhaps that is why you are here, why you have been chosen to witness what others cannot." There is a secret I possess, human, one that has never left this domain, never touched by another being. It is dangerous, capable of altering the fate of worlds, and yet I find myself compelled to share it with you. Elias felt a mix of excitement and caution. A secret. What kind of secret? Zyra's eyes glimmered. A power, a knowledge, so potent that the wrong hands could bring ruin. I must know if your species is worthy of such responsibility. Only by proving your judgment, your courage, and your integrity will you be able to handle what I guard. Elias nodded, understanding the gravity of the moment. I will do whatever it takes to prove humanity's worth. She led him to a chamber deep within the asteroid. The room was vast, the crystalline floor reflecting light in 1,000 directions. At the center, a small pedestal held a sphere of shifting energy, hovering slightly above its base. Elias felt the energy wash over him, a tingling sensation that made his hair stand on end. This is only a fragment of what I guard, Zyra said. It is harmless in isolation, but even this fragment can teach much about your mind and character. Observe, analyze, and respond. Your decisions here will reveal whether you are fit for greater knowledge. Elias approached the sphere cautiously. The energy within it responded to his presence, shifting and reshaping as though it were alive. He reached out with a gloved hand, and the sphere pulsed warmly. Images flashed in his mind, scenes of distant planets, civilizations rising and falling, choices made and unmade. Each vision seemed to ask a question, probing his understanding of ethics, empathy, and logic. He focused, drawing on every lesson he had learned in his life. He considered the consequences of every decision, weighing compassion against necessity, risk against reward. Hours seemed to pass, though only minutes ticked by. Finally, the sphere stabilized, its glow softening into a calm, steady light. Zyra observed silently, her expression unreadable. You have done well, human. You think beyond yourself, beyond survival. You consider others, and you act with reason and courage. Such traits are rare even among the stars. Elias allowed himself a small sigh of relief. Thank you, Queen Zyra, I did my best. She smiled faintly, a gesture both alien and familiar. Your best is sufficient, but this is only the beginning. To understand the secret I guard, you must continue to learn, to grow, and to prove that humanity is worthy of trust. As Elias prepared to return to his shuttle, he realized that his life, and perhaps the future of his species, had changed forever. He had touched the threshold of knowledge that few had ever seen, and he had survived. Not through strength alone, but through courage, wisdom, and a willingness to face the unknown. Zyra watched him leave, her mind already considering the possibilities. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but perhaps that unpredictability was their greatest strength. They were bold, adaptable, and capable of compassion even in the harshest circumstances. Perhaps they were indeed worthy of the secret she had guarded for millennia. As Elias returned to his ship, the asteroid and its luminous queen receding behind him, he could not shake the feeling that the universe had opened a new door. A door that could lead to wonder, danger, and unimaginable discoveries. And somewhere deep within him, he knew that this was only the first step in a journey that would test the limits of humanity and define its place among the stars. The stars outside the viewport no longer seemed distant or cold. They seemed alive with possibility, full of challenges that humanity was ready to face. And Elias, heart pounding with excitement and resolve, was ready to walk boldly through whatever lay ahead. For the first time in his life, he understood that humanity's true strength was not just in technology or firepower, but in courage, wisdom, and the unyielding drive to explore the unknown. And as he plotted a course back to the colony, he knew that one day, humans would rise not just as survivors, but as trusted stewards of secrets that could shape the galaxy itself. Elias Varn returned to the intrepid explorer, the hum of the engines now feeling familiar after the tense and mysterious encounter with Queen Zyra. His mind was a swirl of thoughts, questions, and possibilities. Humanity had met many alien species, but none like the Zalnari. None had been as intelligent, as graceful, and yet as enigmatic as Queen Zyra. She had offered him a glimpse of her secret, a fraction of her power, and already Elias felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him. He gathered his crew in the ship's command room, eager to share what had happened. Mara Kine, Lieutenant Rajan, and the others leaned forward, listening intently. Elias recounted his journey into the asteroid, the strange crystalline formations, and the initial encounter with Zyra. He described the sphere of energy, the visions it had shown him, and the test of judgment he had undergone. No one has ever seen anything like this before, Elias concluded. This is not just advanced technology. This is something alive, something that thinks and tests us. And Queen Zyra, she is unlike any other leader we have encountered. She trusts me, and I believe she may trust humanity if we prove ourselves worthy. The crew exchanged looks, a mixture of awe and unease. Rajan, the ship's engineer, spoke first. Captain, this could be dangerous. If other alien species find out that you've been inside that asteroid, it could start a war, or worse. Elias nodded. I know, Rajan, but I also know that we cannot shy away from discovery. Humanity advances because we face the unknown, because we step forward when others hesitate. If we are careful, if we act wisely, this could be an opportunity for great cooperation and knowledge. Mara hesitated, frowning. And what about the secret she mentioned? If it's dangerous, shouldn't we leave it alone? Elias' gaze was steady. Dangerous, yes, but knowledge itself is not inherently evil. It is what we do with it that matters. Queen Zyra is testing me, testing humanity. We must prove that we are capable of responsibility. With the decision made, Elias plotted a course back to the asteroid. He would not go alone this time. The crew would remain in orbit, ready to provide support. But the true journey was just beginning. They would need to earn Zyra's trust, learn her ways, and demonstrate that humanity could be an ally rather than a threat. As the shuttle approached the asteroid, Elias felt the same strange resonance he had experienced before. The crystals pulsed faintly in response to his presence, as though recognizing him. Zyra was waiting, her tall, iridescent form emerging from the crystalline tunnels. You return, she said, her voice calm yet probing. I sense that your thoughts are not idle. You ponder the responsibility of what you have glimpsed. This is wise, human, Elias bowed slightly. I wish to learn, Queen Zyra. I wish to understand and to prove that humanity is worthy of trust. She studied him for a moment, then motioned for him to follow. Very well. Come and observe how we live, how we think. Understanding cannot come from a brief encounter. It requires time, attention, and willingness to change. Are you prepared for this? I am, Elias replied without hesitation. The tunnels led to a larger chamber than he had seen before, filled with crystalline towers that stretched upward in spirals. The air was rich with a subtle energy, and Elias could feel his own mind attuning to it. Zyra explained that the Zalnari used the crystals as a form of communication, a way to exchange ideas instantly through vibrations and resonance. You will need to learn our methods, Zyra said. Our knowledge is vast, but it is shared in ways that are unfamiliar to humans. You must open your mind and you must listen. Elias spent the next hours observing the interactions of the Zalnari. They moved gracefully, speaking not only with words but with thought. Ideas flowed between them like rivers of light, each individual contributing to a collective understanding. Elias was fascinated. Humans communicated differently, through words, gestures, and writing. Yet there was a lesson here. Cooperation, sharing, and clarity of thought could create power far greater than brute force alone. Zyra watched him closely, noting how he absorbed and analyzed every detail. You are learning quickly, she said, but understanding is not enough. You must also demonstrate judgment, creativity, and courage. Before Elias could ask what she meant, a sudden alarm echoed through the chamber. Crystalline walls vibrated as energy spikes pulsed through the asteroid. Aliens from neighboring factions had detected the unusual activity and were probing the asteroid's defenses. Zyra's eyes narrowed. They seek my secret. They would take it without understanding, without wisdom. You must help me protect it, human. Elias felt a surge of determination. I will do everything I can, Queen Zyra. She led him to a strategic control chamber within the asteroid. Here, the crystals were arranged to form barriers, shields, and traps, all responsive to thought and gesture. Elias quickly realized that the Zalnari had engineered this place not only as a home, but as a fortress. He watched and learned, adapting his human instincts to the alien system. When the first hostile probes approached, Elias demonstrated his ingenuity. Using the resonance patterns of the crystals, he created illusions and obstacles that diverted the intruders without causing harm. Zyra observed with approval. You think beyond simple defense. You use creativity, deception, and strategy. These are human strengths, and they serve well here. Over the next several days, Elias worked closely with Zyra and her advisors. They simulated attacks, solved complex puzzles, and negotiated scenarios designed to test morality and judgment. Elias began to understand the depth of Zyra's trust. She was not merely sharing knowledge, but observing how humanity responded under pressure. One evening, as Elias rested in the chamber, Zyra approached him. "You have done well, human," she said. "Your mind is sharp, your judgment fair, and your courage true. But the final test is yet to come. You must prove that you can make decisions not for yourself, but for the many. The secret I guard is not only powerful, it is a responsibility that can affect countless lives." "Are you ready for such a challenge?" Elias nodded, feeling both the weight and the honor of her words. "I am ready, Queen Zyra. I will act with wisdom and care." The next day, she led him to a chamber filled with crystalline spheres, each pulsing with light. "These are fragments of knowledge," she explained. "Each represents a scenario, a decision, or a potential outcome. You will choose, and in choosing, you will show me your understanding of consequence, ethics, and leadership." Elias studied the spheres carefully. Some contained visions of war and destruction, others of peace and prosperity. He realized that his choices could determine the fate of entire civilizations in these simulations. With careful thought, he selected a path that minimized harm, preserved potential, and respected the autonomy of others. The spheres glowed brighter, acknowledging his judgment. Zyra watched him silently, then nodded. "You have learned quickly, human. You understand that power without wisdom is dangerous. You have shown that humanity can act with foresight, empathy, and courage. You are ready to witness a portion of what I guard." For the first time, she allowed him to see deeper into her secret, a small device, delicate yet brimming with energy. Elias felt its presence not only in his eyes but in his mind, sensing the potential within. He did not touch it, understanding that the true test was not in using power but in recognizing responsibility. Over the following days, Elias continued to learn from Zyra. She taught him about the ways the Zalnari balanced power and ethics, how they resolved conflicts without unnecessary violence, and how their collective wisdom could achieve results humans might find impossible. In turn, Elias shared human strategies, improvisation, adaptability, and the courage to act when rules failed. Zyra found these traits intriguing. Humans were less predictable, yet they had a unique strength that could complement Zalnari wisdom. One afternoon, while walking through a crystalline corridor, Elias asked, "Queen Zyra, why do you trust me? Why me of all humans?" Zyra regarded him thoughtfully. "Trust is earned, human. You have shown qualities rare even among my own species. Curiosity tempered with caution, courage tempered with wisdom. You value life, yet you are willing to act when necessary. These are qualities I see in your kind, though rarely together." Elias considered her words. "It is not just me. Humanity strives to be more than the sum of its flaws. We survive because we adapt, because we cooperate, and because we hope. Perhaps that is what you sense." She inclined her head. "Perhaps. But you have proven that your species can rise to challenges without succumbing to fear or selfishness. That is why you are here, why I offer my trust. You will face trials that test not only skill but character. Only then can you truly understand the responsibility of the secret I guard." As Elias prepared to leave the asteroid for a brief rest in his shuttle, he realized the journey ahead would not be easy. Trust was fragile, and the galaxy was full of dangers. Yet he felt a deep sense of purpose. He was no longer just an explorer. He was a representative of humanity, a bridge between his species and one of the most intelligent civilizations they had ever encountered. The stars outside the asteroid shimmered with possibility. Elias knew that every choice he made, every lesson he learned, and every alliance he nurtured would shape the future of humanity. And somewhere deep within him, he felt a growing confidence that humans, with their courage, ingenuity, and moral compass, were ready to meet the challenges of the galaxy. He looked back at the shimmering crystal structure of the asteroid, at Queen Zyra standing poised and calm, and he knew that this was only the beginning. The path forward would be difficult, filled with tests and trials, but it was a path that promised knowledge, growth, and the chance to prove that humanity was truly worthy of the stars. Elias set his course for the orbiting ship, heart steady and mind alert. The galaxy was vast, mysterious, and full of challenges, but humanity had faced the unknown before. This time they were not alone. And for the first time, Elias felt that the universe was ready to see what humans could truly achieve when courage met wisdom, when curiosity met responsibility, and when trust was earned through deeds rather than words. The days that followed were tense and filled with lessons that tested Ilias in ways he had never imagined. Queen Zyra's secret, still partially revealed, hung over him like a shadow he could not shake. He felt its weight in every thought, every decision, every action he took. Yet despite the pressure, he remained focused. He knew that the path forward required patience, understanding, and courage, the very qualities that humanity had honed through centuries of struggle and growth. Ilias spent long hours walking through the crystalline corridors of the asteroid, observing the Zalnari at work. He watched as they manipulated energy fields with precision, their thoughts flowing like rivers of light. He began to notice patterns in their methods, ways in which their intelligence was not merely individual but collective, a network of understanding that amplified every decision they made. It was a world unlike anything he had seen, and yet he saw hints of it in humanity too, our ability to cooperate, to innovate, to act despite uncertainty. One morning, Zyra approached him as he studied a large crystalline display. "You have been watching closely, human," she said, her voice calm but filled with purpose. "Tell me, what do you see?" Ilias looked up. "I see a society that values precision, foresight, and collaboration. Every action is calculated, every choice considered. Yet there is also a flexibility, a willingness to adapt when the unexpected occurs. It is impressive," Zyra nodded. "You understand, yet understanding alone is not enough. Knowledge without judgment can be dangerous. Soon you will be allowed to see more of the secret I guard, but only if you demonstrate that your judgment can match your understanding." Ilias felt a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. The tests had been difficult, but he sensed that the most critical moment was approaching. He could feel it in the way the crystals pulsed, in the subtle shifts in energy that seemed to resonate with his very thoughts. He knew that the final stage of Zyra's trust was near. That evening, as the asteroid shimmered in the light of distant stars, Zyra led Ilias to a new chamber. It was unlike any he had seen before. The walls were covered in reflective crystal, creating an infinite array of mirrored images. At the center floated a sphere of energy, larger and more vibrant than the fragment he had seen earlier. The air around it thrummed with power, and Ilias felt an immediate awareness of its potential. "This is the next step, human," Zyra said. "Here you will confront the core of the secret. It is a device of great power, capable of altering the course of civilizations. You must understand that your choices here will have consequences far beyond yourself. Do you accept this responsibility?" Ilias nodded firmly. "I do, Queen Zyra. I will act with care, and I will consider every outcome." Zyra studied him silently for a moment, then gestured toward the sphere. "The device can communicate with your mind, but it will only respond if your intent is pure. Approach it with honesty, with courage, and with wisdom. Let your mind be open, but also disciplined. Are you ready?" Taking a deep breath, Ilias stepped forward. The sphere pulsed, sensing his presence. As he extended a hand, visions flooded his mind. Scenes of distant worlds, civilizations rising and falling, leaders making decisions that shaped entire species. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, a tangible force that tested not only his intellect but his morality and judgment. The sphere presented him with dilemmas, each more complex than the last. He saw worlds on the brink of war, species facing extinction, and decisions that required choosing between survival and ethical integrity. Each scenario demanded careful consideration. Ilias realized that this was not merely a test of knowledge, but a test of character. He paused, taking in the first vision. A planet teetered on the edge of environmental collapse, its leaders unwilling to act despite clear signs of disaster. The sphere asked him, without words, what he would do. Ilias considered the options carefully. He could intervene directly, risking conflict and altering the natural course of events, or he could guide subtly, offering insight while allowing the inhabitants to choose their path. He chose the latter. Humanity had learned through experience that forcing solutions often caused greater harm. He crafted a plan that offered guidance and knowledge, empowering the inhabitants to act responsibly. The vision shifted, showing the planet responding positively, its people beginning to adapt and survive. The sphere pulsed with approval, acknowledging his judgment. Another vision appeared, depicting a species divided by conflict, on the verge of civil war. Weapons of mass destruction were ready, and the consequences of failure were catastrophic. The sphere sought his choice. Elias weighed the risks carefully. Direct intervention could end the conflict swiftly but might create resentment or long-term instability. Offering counsel and strategic advice would be slower, but would respect the autonomy of the species and encourage lasting peace. He chose diplomacy and guidance, using insight and strategy rather than force. The sphere shimmered, signaling recognition of his approach. Elias felt a surge of relief. Each decision reinforced his understanding. The secret Zyra guarded was not merely about power, but about responsibility, ethics, and the capacity to act wisely under pressure. For hours, he faced scenario after scenario, each more challenging than the last. Some tested his courage, forcing him to confront dangers that could harm him if he acted impulsively. Others tested his morality, presenting impossible choices that required careful balance. Through it all, Elias remained focused, drawing on human intuition, experience, and empathy. Finally, the vision ceased. The sphere hovered silently, glowing with a steady light. Elias felt a profound sense of accomplishment and exhaustion. He had faced the tests, demonstrated judgment, and navigated challenges that would have overwhelmed many. Zyra approached, her expression unreadable yet filled with an almost imperceptible approval. "You have done well, human," she said. "You have shown wisdom, courage, and moral clarity. You understand that power is not simply possession but responsibility. This is why I trust you with what I guard." Elias felt a mix of awe and apprehension. "I am honored, Queen Zyra. I will protect this knowledge and act with care. I understand the gravity of what you have shared." She nodded, then motioned for him to step closer to the sphere. "The secret is now within your awareness, though not yet fully in your hands. What you hold is a device capable of altering memory and perception across entire civilizations. It can prevent wars, reshape societies, or erase conflicts before they begin. But misuse could bring disaster. You are the first human to witness this directly, and you are trusted to act with discernment." Elias absorbed the revelation. The implications were staggering. Humanity had always strived to explore, to understand, to survive, but here was a tool unlike any other, a device that could shape the galaxy in profound ways. The burden of responsibility weighed heavily on him. Yet he also felt a sense of purpose, a recognition that humans were capable not only of survival but of stewardship, of protecting knowledge with wisdom and care. Before he could speak, the asteroid shuddered. Alarm lights blinked across the chamber. Zyra's eyes narrowed. "They have found us. The factions who covet my secret have discovered the asteroid. You must act, human. Your judgment will now be tested in reality, not in visions." Elias' pulse quickened. He had faced simulations, moral dilemmas, and abstract challenges, but now the threat was real. He could hear the faint hum of intruding ships approaching the asteroid's orbit. Their energy signatures indicated advanced weaponry and aggressive intent. Zyra guided him to a control array. "Use the crystals. Defend without destruction if you can. Show that your species can protect what is precious not only through force, but through intelligence, strategy, and foresight." Elias studied the array, noting the ways the crystals could manipulate energy, create barriers, and project illusions. Using his human ingenuity, he devised a plan. Rather than confront the intruders head-on, he would divert them, leading them into decoys and energy loops that wasted their resources and time. He coordinated with Zyra, who guided him subtly through the alien system. The intruders approached, scanning for weaknesses. Elias activated the traps, creating shifting corridors of light and mirrored pathways. The intruders were confused, unable to find a direct path to the core chamber. Elias adjusted the energy fields in real time, improvising as the situation changed. His decisions were quick, precise, and guided by careful observation rather than brute force. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. The intruders grew frustrated, unable to bypass the defenses. Elias' strategy worked flawlessly, preserving the integrity of the asteroid and its secret without harming a single life. Zyra observed silently, her expression a mixture of pride and cautious approval. Finally, the intruders retreated, unable to breach the defenses. Elias collapsed into a chair, exhausted but exhilarated. "It's over," he said, breathing heavily. Zyra approached him. "Not over, human, but you have proven your ability to act wisely under pressure." You have protected what is precious without succumbing to fear, anger, or recklessness. This is why I trust you." Elias looked at her, understanding the depth of her words. Trust was rare, and she had placed it in him, a human. Not because of his strength, but because of his mind, his judgment, and his willingness to act responsibly. Humanity, he realized, had qualities that could shine even in the presence of the most advanced and powerful species. As the asteroid settled into quiet once more, Elias felt a profound sense of connection, not just with Zyra, but with the greater universe. He had witnessed what humans could achieve when courage met wisdom, when intellect met ethics, and when trust was earned through action rather than assumed. For the first time, he truly understood that humanity's place among the stars was not just to explore or conquer, but to protect, to guide, and to act with integrity. And in that realization, he found both purpose and hope. The victory over the intruding factions had brought a momentary sense of relief, but Elias knew that peace was temporary in a galaxy filled with ambition, curiosity, and fear. The secret he had glimpsed, now partially understood, made him a focal point in a conflict he had not sought but could not ignore. Humanity had always faced challenges, yet never on such a scale where one wrong decision could ripple across star systems. He felt the weight of that responsibility with every step he took through the crystalline halls of Zyra's asteroid. Queen Zyra observed him silently as he walked beside her. Her eyes, luminous and thoughtful, seemed to peer into his very mind. "Human," she said finally, "your success in defending the asteroid demonstrates skill and courage. Yet true responsibility requires understanding consequences beyond immediate threats. You must now consider the broader galaxy, the factions, the alliances, and the ripple effects of knowledge and action." Elias nodded. "I understand, Queen Zyra, but how can I prepare for consequences I cannot yet see?" She guided him to a chamber he had not yet entered. The space was vast, filled with floating crystal panels that displayed scenes of distant civilizations, each one animated and vivid. Elias realized that this was not merely a display. It was a network, a map of galactic activity in real time. Wars, negotiations, alliances, trade routes, migrations, all visible through the glowing panels. Zyra had access to information far beyond anything humanity possessed. "This," she said, "is the network of influence. Every species, every decision, every action can affect another. Knowledge alone does not make one wise. Understanding patterns, predicting consequences, and acting with moral clarity are essential. You must learn to see not only the immediate danger but the long-term effects of choices." Elias studied the panels. He could see the factions that had attacked the asteroid regrouping, their leaders debating strategies, their spies scouring reports for weaknesses. He could see trade negotiations teetering on the edge of collapse and planets on the brink of unrest. The complexity was staggering, yet within it, patterns emerged. Humanity had taught him to see solutions where others saw chaos. "I see potential," Elias said. "There are ways to stabilize these regions to prevent further conflict before it escalates." Zyra's expression softened slightly. "Then show me, human. Use the knowledge, the tools, and your judgment. Prove that humans can act not only for survival but for the greater good of the galaxy." For the next several days, Elias worked tirelessly. He studied the factions' movements, analyzed their motivations, and devised strategies to de-escalate tensions. Zyra provided guidance, yet she allowed him to lead, observing how he combined human intuition with Zalnari logic. Elias proposed solutions that balanced power without oppression, that rewarded cooperation rather than punishing ambition, and that offered paths toward long-term peace rather than temporary victories. When the first faction attempted another approach toward the asteroid, Elias anticipated their moves. He used the crystalline network to create strategic diversions, not through violence, but through clever manipulation of energy fields and communication channels. He redirected fleets, intercepted messages, and offered alternatives that satisfied their ambitions without threatening the asteroid or Zyra's secret. The results were remarkable. The factions, frustrated by their inability to breach defenses or gain advantage, began to reconsider their strategies. Elias sent subtle messages, carefully worded and tactfully delivered, emphasizing the benefits of cooperation over conflict. Slowly, the hostile intent faded. Leaders began to seek dialogue rather than battle, persuaded not by force but by the logic and fairness of the human approach. Zyra watched in quiet awe. Your species' strength lies not only in ingenuity, but in your capacity to inspire, to reason, and to act with ethics. Others might use power to intimidate or dominate, yet you use it to build understanding. This is why I trust you with my secret. Elias felt a sense of pride tempered by humility. He had always believed in humanity's potential, but witnessing the immediate impact of thoughtful action reinforced the truth. Humans were capable of great responsibility when guided by wisdom and empathy. As the days passed, Elias began communicating with human colonies near the sector. He shared insights gleaned from the Zalnari network, advising leaders on resource allocation, trade agreements, and conflict prevention. Humanity's reputation began to grow, not merely as explorers or warriors, but as mediators and problem solvers. The galaxy, he realized, was beginning to recognize a new dimension of human capability: judgment, adaptability, and moral clarity. One evening, as Elias reviewed the latest updates from the network, Zyra appeared beside him. You have done more than survive, human. You have influenced, guided, and inspired. The galaxy responds not to fear or force alone, but to reason and courage. You are proving that humans can be leaders in ways your species has not yet imagined. Elias looked at her, understanding the weight of her words. I could not have done this without your guidance, Queen Zyra. But I see now that humanity has the capacity to rise to challenges even beyond our current understanding. She nodded. Yes, yet remember, human, the galaxy is vast and unpredictable. Your influence is growing, and with it comes attention from those who may not welcome your presence. You must remain vigilant, ethical, and steadfast. Your choices now shape not only your species, but the balance among many. Suddenly, a warning signal flashed across the crystalline panels. Elias focused on the source. A coalition of smaller factions, previously neutral, had begun mobilizing. They had observed the changes in the region and feared the growing influence of humans and Zalnari cooperation. Misunderstanding and mistrust had created the potential for conflict. Elias acted quickly. He reached out through communication channels, sending messages of transparency and reassurance. He offered assistance in trade, conflict resolution, and resource sharing. He emphasized fairness, collaboration, and mutual benefit. Slowly, the factions paused, considering the offers rather than rushing into war. Zyra observed silently, her eyes reflecting pride and cautious hope. You are showing that humans can act decisively without resorting to violence. Others may not understand immediately, but your approach sets a precedent. Influence earned through reason, and ethics is more enduring than influence won by force. In the following days, Elias continued to stabilize the region. He coordinated with Zalnari allies, human colonies, and even former adversaries, creating a network of communication and trust. The galaxy, once chaotic and uncertain, began to show signs of order. Trade resumed, conflicts were averted, and the factions recognized the benefits of cooperation. Through it all, Elias felt the growing weight of responsibility. He was no longer a lone explorer. He was a leader, a mediator, and a guardian of knowledge. The deadliest secret he had witnessed was still present, and its potential consequences loomed over every decision. Yet, he found strength in humanity's unique qualities: creativity, adaptability, empathy, and the courage to act wisely even in the face of danger. One morning, as Elias reviewed the latest reports, Zyra approached him with a new message. Human, the galaxy is beginning to see what I have observed in you. Your actions demonstrate not only skill, but the integrity and foresight necessary for stewardship. There is still much to do, but your influence is undeniable. You are shaping a future where humans are trusted, respected, and valued. Elias felt a mixture of pride and humility. He knew that humanity's journey among the stars was just beginning. Trust and respect were fragile, easily broken, but they were more powerful than weapons or technology. By showing that humans could act ethically, wisely, and courageously, he had opened the door to a new era of interstellar relations. As the asteroid shimmered in the light of distant stars, Elias stood beside Zyra, reflecting on the lessons he had learned. Humans were resilient, capable, and morally conscious. They could face the unknown with courage and curiosity, solve complex problems with creativity, and earn trust even among the most advanced and powerful species. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of potential threats. Yet Elias felt a growing confidence. Humanity's place among the stars was not merely to survive, but to guide, to protect, and to inspire. And through his actions, he had shown that humans could meet challenges with intelligence, integrity, and courage. Zyra's voice broke his thoughts. Human, the time will come when you must make choices not only for yourself, but for your species and the galaxy at large. Remember the lessons you have learned here. Courage tempered with wisdom, action guided by ethics, and trust earned through deeds. These will define the future you help shape. Elias nodded, feeling the truth of her words resonate deeply. I will remember, Queen Zyra. Humanity will act with responsibility, and we will rise to meet the challenges ahead. As he prepared to leave the asteroid once more, Elias looked back at the shimmering crystal walls, at the queen who had placed such profound trust in him, and at the galaxy stretching infinitely before him. The stakes were higher than ever, the challenges greater than any humanity had faced, but he knew that humans had the potential to rise. They could earn respect, protect knowledge, and act with integrity in ways that even the most powerful species might not anticipate. And in that realization, Elias found hope, purpose, and determination. Humanity was not merely a species of survival. It was a species capable of leadership, stewardship, and influence. The galaxy was watching, and through courage, wisdom, and ethical action, humanity was ready to leave its mark among the stars. Elias Varn floated in the observation deck of the Intrepid explorer, staring at the endless expanse of stars. Each point of light was a world, a possibility, a life. He had come far from the first time he had entered Queen Zyra's asteroid, and yet the journey was not yet complete. The galaxy had begun to notice humanity, and with that attention came responsibility of the heaviest kind. Queen Zyra's secret, the device capable of altering memory and perception across entire civilizations, remained under his careful watch. Its potential was immense, yet Elias understood the gravity of restraint. One mistake, one misuse, could ripple across systems and leave consequences far beyond comprehension. He had learned in simulations, in tests, and in real encounters that knowledge alone was not enough. Wisdom, ethics, and courage were equally necessary. The asteroid pulsed softly with life, the crystals humming in quiet harmony. Zyra had returned to observe, her presence calm yet ever vigilant. The galaxy watches human, she said. Your actions will define humanity's reputation among stars in ways you may not yet fully grasp. There are factions that will test you, not merely with conflict, but with doubt, with misdirection, and with temptation. Elias nodded. I understand, Queen Zyra. I am prepared to face them with reason, integrity, and courage. Humanity has learned that strength is not merely in force, but in judgment and cooperation. Zyra inclined her head. Then let the final phase begin. Over the next few days, intelligence reports indicated that multiple alien coalitions were converging on the region. Some were drawn by curiosity, others by fear, and still others by ambition. Each sought either alliance, knowledge, or control over the asteroid and its secrets. Elias realized that this was a test not of combat alone, but of diplomacy, strategy, and moral authority. Humanity would need to act decisively, yet without arrogance or coercion. Elias began by establishing communication channels with each faction. Using logic, transparency, and fairness, he outlined the benefits of cooperation, the dangers of conflict, and the shared potential of prosperity. He emphasized that the asteroid's knowledge could benefit all, but only if used responsibly and ethically. His words were firm yet respectful, appealing to reason rather than fear. Some factions resisted. They were skeptical, wary of human influence and the unseen power of the Zalnari. Yet Elias persisted, employing patience, insight, and creativity. He analyzed their priorities, understood their fears, and proposed solutions that balanced ambition with security. Slowly, the tide began to shift. Hesitant leaders began to consider dialogue rather than aggression, trade rather than conquest. Meanwhile, Elias worked closely with Zyra to fortify the asteroid's defenses. The crystals could create barriers and illusions, but the true power lay in strategy. Elias devised energy patterns that could mislead intruders, protect the core chamber, and ensure that no faction could gain advantage without cooperation. Each defensive measure was designed to avoid destruction, reflecting humanity's capacity to solve problems without unnecessary violence. As the factions moved into position, Elias coordinated a series of negotiations and demonstrations. He arranged for neutral observers to witness the asteroid's defenses, showing transparency and goodwill. He allowed representatives to explore the outer chambers, providing insight into the Zalnari's technology and wisdom, while keeping the core secret secure. His careful planning impressed both the aliens and Zyra. Days passed with tense deliberation. Small incidents arose, requiring quick thinking and calm judgment. Elias resolved disputes over trade routes, miscommunications, and territorial claims with clarity and fairness. He used his understanding of alien cultures, his human intuition, and lessons learned from Zyra to navigate each challenge. The factions began to see humanity not as a threat, but as a capable and ethical mediator. One evening, as Elias reviewed the latest reports, Zyra approached him. "You have achieved what few could," she said. "You have guided the galaxy towards stability not through force but through wisdom. Yet the ultimate measure is still before you, how you will wield the secret should it ever be required." Elias considered the words carefully. The device was immense in potential, and its misuse could cause devastation. Yet he realized that its true value lay not in what it could do alone, but in how humans chose to act with it. Wisdom, ethics, and judgment were the keys to ensuring that power remained a tool for good rather than a weapon of destruction. As if on cue, a new alert appeared. A coalition of smaller factions, previously neutral, had begun to act independently, misinterpreting the negotiations as an opportunity to seize the secret. Elias sprang into action. He contacted their leaders, offering clarity, reasoning, and incentives for cooperation. He devised a plan to stabilize the region without conflict, using the asteroid's defenses to deter aggression while demonstrating trustworthiness. The factions paused, evaluating his strategy. Elias acted with calm authority, explaining the consequences of rash action, emphasizing fairness, and showing that humans valued life, ethics, and collaboration over conquest. Slowly, the tensions eased. The factions withdrew, convinced that cooperation and transparency were safer than conflict. Zyra observed quietly, her eyes reflecting pride and admiration. "You have done what few could, human. You have protected knowledge, guided civilizations, and earned trust without resorting to violence. This is the essence of stewardship. Humanity is proving itself worthy of the greatest responsibilities." Elias felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The galaxy was beginning to recognize a truth he had always believed. Humans were capable of leadership, moral clarity, and innovation, even when confronted with unimaginable challenges. They could navigate complexity, inspire cooperation, and act ethically under pressure. As the asteroid settled into quiet, Elias took a moment to reflect. The factions were now aligned toward mutual benefit, trade and communication had resumed, and the potential for conflict had been reduced dramatically. Humanity's influence was growing, not through domination, but through intelligence, integrity, and ethical action. Zyra spoke again. "Human, you have faced trials, guided others, and protected what is precious. Now you must consider the legacy of your actions. How will humanity continue to influence the galaxy? How will you ensure that trust, respect, and responsibility endure?" Elias thought carefully. "Humanity will continue to learn, to explore, and to act with integrity. We will share knowledge responsibly, build alliances based on trust, and protect what is valuable not only for ourselves, but for all civilizations. We have shown that courage combined with wisdom can create stability and opportunity." Zyra smiled faintly, a gesture rare among her species. "Then the future is promising, human. Your species is capable of greatness, not merely in technology or power, but in ethics, leadership, and cooperation. The galaxy will remember the actions you have taken here." Elias felt a surge of hope and determination. He understood that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, yet humanity had proven that it could rise to meet them. Intelligence, courage, empathy, and ethical action were more powerful than any weapon. Humans could build, protect, and inspire, and they were beginning to earn their place among the stars. In the days that followed, Elias continued to work with Zyra and the other factions. Together, they established systems for communication, trade, and conflict resolution. Humans were increasingly trusted as mediators and advisors, their judgment valued for its combination of practicality and ethical clarity. The galaxy began to see humanity not as conquerors or passive observers, but as capable stewards of knowledge and peace. One morning, as Elias prepared to leave the asteroid for a short visit to the nearest human colony, Zyra approached him. "Human, you have done more than survive, more than adapt. You have led, guided, and inspired. Remember these lessons. Trust is earned through action, knowledge carries responsibility, and courage guided by wisdom can shape the future." Elias bowed slightly. "I will, Queen Zyra. Humanity will honor the trust you have placed in us. We will act wisely, with courage and integrity, and we will continue to grow as a species worthy of the stars." As he left the asteroid, Elias looked back at the shimmering crystal structure, at the queen who had shared her secret, and at the galaxy stretching endlessly beyond. He felt a profound sense of purpose. Humanity's journey was just beginning, but they had shown that they could act responsibly, lead ethically, and inspire cooperation even in the most complex and dangerous situations. The stars outside the viewport seemed to shine with possibility. Elias knew that every choice, every lesson, and every action would ripple outward, shaping not only humanity's future but the balance of civilizations across the galaxy. Yet he felt confident. Humans were capable. Humans were courageous. Humans were ready to meet the unknown with intelligence, wisdom, and integrity. And in that realization, Elias understood that the greatest discovery was not merely the secret of the Zalnari, nor the power they possessed, but the truth of humanity itself. A species that could rise to challenges, protect knowledge, and act with courage and conscience. A species capable of leaving a mark on the galaxy not through fear or dominance, but through wisdom, collaboration, and ethical action. As the intrepid explorer set a course for new worlds, Elias felt a sense of fulfillment and hope. The galaxy was vast, full of wonder, challenge, and potential. Humanity had proven itself worthy of trust and responsibility, and the future was theirs to shape. With courage, wisdom, and integrity, humans would continue to explore, to learn, and to guide, leaving a legacy that would echo among the stars for generations to come. And somewhere deep within, Elias knew that Queen Zyra's trust had not only changed the fate of a secret, but had also revealed the true strength of humanity, a species capable of extraordinary action when guided by ethics, intelligence, and heart. The stars awaited, endless and bright, and humanity was ready to meet them.